The wind in the Altai Mountains is a razor. It carries no scent of pine or prey, only the sterile bite of high-altitude rock and ice. Kale presses his fingers into the indentation in the frozen scree. It is a footprint, but impossibly large, wider than his outstretched hand and pressed deep into the unforgiving ground. The shape is wrong for a cave bear to structured. It is the print of a man, but a man larger than any giant from his clan's oldest stories. Beside him, Mara traces the print's edge with her spear tip, her face a mask of disbelief. Orin, the youngest, just stares, his knuckles white where he grips his flint axe. They are a scout party, 3 of the swiftest among their Homo sapiens band, sent ahead to find a pass through these godlike peaks. For 2 days, they have followed these tracks, a trail that defies all reason, leading them away from the sun and deeper into the stone heart of the world. Honed by a lifetime of surviving, a world of prehistoric life screams that they should turn back. But the tracks are deliberate, the stride long and sure. This is not a beast. This is a walker, a thinker, and that is a far more terrifying thought. The trail ends at a fissure in a sheer rock face, a dark mouth exhaling a faint, almost imperceptible warmth. The entrance is flanked by the piled skulls of cave lions. There are sockets hollow and black, arranged with a purpose that makes Kale's skin crawl. This is a den, but not one of instinct. It is a home. Kale holds up a hand, and the 3 of them melt into the shadows of a rockslide opposite the cave, broken only by the shriek of the wind as it tears past the peaks above. They wait. The sun, a weak disk in the grey sky, begins its slow descent, bleeding or injant purple onto the snow-dusted stone. A flicker of movement from within the darkness. Kale's heart hammers against his ribs, a frantic drumbeat in the vast quiet. He tastes the cold, metallic tang of fear, but his hand remains steady on the yew spear at his side. They are hunters, yes, but they know when they are the ones being watched. Out of the shadows, a figure emerges, and the world stops. It is a man. His chest is a great bow, his arms thick as tree limbs and covered in a pelt of dark hair. A heavy brow of bone juts out over deep-set, intelligent eyes that seem to absorb the fading light. He is immense, a creature of stone and muscle, yet he moves with a ponderous grace, using a sharpened flake of quartz to scrape it clean. The sight shatters the scout's reality more completely than any charging triceratops or swooping pterodactyl ever could. Their entire hominid history has been the story of their people against the world. Now they see they are not the only ones. The giant hominid pauses, his head tilting as if listening to something beyond the wind. Slowly he turns his head, and his dark eyes lock directly onto Kale's hiding place. There is no surprise in his gaze. Only a deep, ancient, and unnerving calm. He has known they were there the entire time. The world shrinks to the space between Kale's eyes and the giant. The cold that seeps from the stone is nothing to the ice flooding his veins. His breath catches in his throat, a trapped bird. To write is to die. To stay is to be at the mercy of a being whose mind is a closed stone, an unreadable tablet from a time before humans as he knew them existed. The giant's gaze holds no malice, no animal hunger. It holds something far more unsettling. Assessment, measured, and perhaps dismissed. Kale slowly, deliberately, lowers the tip of his spear to the ground, a gesture of non-aggression he hopes is universal. He feels Mara's sharp intake of breath beside him, or inch trembling. The giant blinks once, a slow, heavy motion, then turns his massive head away. He returns his attention to the great bone in his hands, as if the 3 armed Homo sapiens across the clearing are no more significant than the lichen on the rocks. The act is a profound display of power. It paralyzes them more effectively than any threat. They are forced to watch, to become students of this impossible creature. He works with a focused, unhurried rhythm. The quartz flake in his massive hand flashes in the dying light, shaving off slivers of bone with practiced ease. The object he is crafting is a club, Kale realizes, but one of such weight and density that no member of his own clan could wield it. It is a tool of pure, brutal force. A piece of osteodontokeratic technology born from a different scale of strength. This is not the work of a mindless beast. Every movement is economical, precise. This is intelligence. It is foresight. He is preparing for a hunt or a war in a world Kale can only begin to imagine. The sun has now dipped below the jagged horizon, plunging the mountain face into a deep purple twilight. The scouts have not moved a muscle. They are a living frieze of fear and fascination, their own small place in the grand, brutal tapestry of hominid history suddenly feeling fragile and insignificant. The giant sets down the finished club. It rests on the ground with a heavy thud that seems to shake the very rock they hide behind. He rises, stretching to his full, terrifying height, a silhouette against the star-pricked sky. He looks not at them, but up, at the patterns of the stars, his expression one of distant contemplation. It is the look of a being who has spent a long time alone. Then, without a backward glance, he turns and disappears back into the blackness of the cave. The moment hangs in the air, thick with unspoken questions. He left the weapon. Is it a trap? A test? An offering? Or does he simply have no fear of them at all? Or in looks to Kale, his eyes wide with a desperate plea. Run. Now? Mara's gaze is harder, more analytical. She is calculating the odds, the distance, the coming dark. But Kale sees another path, a thread of terrifying possibility. They came seeking a pass for their people. They found something else entirely, a secret the mountains have kept for 1,000,000 years. To flee now is to leave that secret behind, a lurking shadow that will haunt their every step. To stay to attempt to understand is to risk everything. The brutal calculus of survival offers no easy answer. The cold is a physical presence, a weight that settles deep in the bones. Kale makes his decision. It is not born of courage, but of a terrifying logic. If this giant is a rival, their clan will never be safe in these mountains. If he is not, then he is a source of knowledge, a living relic of ancient earth, whose existence redefines their own. To run is to live in fear of the unknown. To stay is to face it. He turns to his companions. His voice a low whisper that the wind snatches away almost before it is spoken. We do not run. Mara's eyes narrow, but she sees the reasoning in his. She gives a single, sharp nod, or it looks as if he is about to be sick. But he trusts Kale's judgment more than his own fear. Kale unslings the small leather pouch from his belt. Inside is a strip of dried ibex meat, their emergency ration. It is not enough. A gift must be a sacrifice. He gestures for them to gather the driest moss and twigs they can find in the sheltered crannies of the rocks. Using the most vital piece of their primitive technology, his flint and pyrite, he coaxes a tiny flame into existence. The sparks are defiant little stars in the overwhelming dark. He feeds the flame carefully, building a small, almost smokeless fire in the lee of a boulder. The smell of cooking meat, rich and savory, unfurls into the frigid air, a beacon of life, an announcement of their presence to anything with a nose. It is the ultimate gamble. The scent could draw predators from leagues away, but it is also the most potent symbol of community, of intelligence, of a mind that can bend the elements to its will. It is the smell of a home. He takes the cooked strip of meat, hot and dripping with fat, and impales it on the end of his spear. Then, leaving his axe with Mara, he stands. He steps out from the cover of the rocks and walks into the open space before the cave, his heart a frantic hammer against his ribs. The spear is held out before him, the meat steaming, a flag of truce in the vast, silent arena of the mountains. The darkness of the cave mouth is absolute. For a long moment, nothing happens. Kale stands alone under the cold gaze of the stars, a frail supplicant before a stone god's temple. Then, the shadow within the shadow moves. The giant emerges, his massive form seeming to block out the sky. He looks from Kale to the offering, his deep-set eyes catching the faint flicker of the small fire. He takes a slow step forward, the ground seeming to vibrate with his weight. Kale does not flinch. He holds his ground, his arm steady. The giant stops just beyond arm's reach, close enough for Kale to see the intelligence churning behind that heavy brow, a mind shaped by a different path of human evolution. But on the offering, slowly, deliberately, he reaches out a hand the size of a small shield, his fingers thick and powerful. He does not take the spear. He gently takes the piece of meat from its tip. He looks at it, then raises it to his mouth and eats. The act is simple, profound. It is acceptance. He gives Kale a long, final look, a look that holds no warmth, but a clear, silent acknowledgement. Then, he turns and retreats once more into his stone sanctuary, leaving Kale standing in the immense silence of a newly discovered world. They are not alone. And for the first time, the thought is not a source of terror, but of a deep and unsettling wonder about the true nature of their own human ancestors. From that fragile truce, born of a calculated risk and a piece of cooked meat, a new chapter of ancient humans began. The encounter in the Altai Range was not a war, nor was it a friendship, but something far more significant. The first recorded instance of diplomatic contact between two separate species of human. Kale's choice to offer sustenance instead of a spear point became a lesson carried down through his bloodline, a new tool added to their arsenal of survival skill. It was the understanding that the greatest threats do not always bear teeth and claws, and that the most powerful weapon is not always the sharpest stone, but the mind that can perceive another mind across a gulf of silence and distrust. This was the moment our species learned that the world was wider, older, and stranger than we had ever imagined, and that survival sometimes meant having the audacity to believe that a gesture of peace could be more powerful than an act of war. It begs the question that echoes down through the millennia. When we finally look upon the face of an intelligence subtly alien to our own, will we remember the lesson of that first, terrifying encounter, and offer the open hand before the clenched fist? In the long, cold shadow of prehistory, the human story was not written in stone, but etched in the silence between heartbeats of courage. But in the sweltering jungles to the south, the oldest fear was not walking on two legs, but crawling on 100.